what then pushed you to move out of the UK to France to start a skills clinic and coaching business?
I guess it's been a series of opportunities that I've just taken. You know, you just see them and you just think, okay, let's go with it and see where we end up. So I wasn't sure my French was good enough at the time, so I was like, okay, well, I've got nothing to lose. Let's try. And I was successful. I think it's that often like you have a lack of self-confidence sometimes, and actually you can be a lot better at things than you realise.
Joining us in the studio today is the 2021 British Masters Downhill World Champ. She's a YouTube skills creator, a mountain bike guide, and also a skills coach. Please welcome Emily Horridge. Emily, hi there.
Hello, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
So good to see you again and have you on the show. Tell us, Emily, where are you calling in from today?
I'm in the French Alps, not that far from a town called Bourg-Saint-Maurice, which is not that far from Tignes Val d'Isère, which I think are the closest, most famous ski resorts. But for people that don't know France, it's about 2 hours east of Lyon. In the southeast.
And you look like you just came in from a mountain bike ride, is that right?
That's right. We were doing some filming this afternoon, and then we just found we had a little bit of time left to just quickly go for a quick blast on the e-bikes. So we just went for a quick spin, did some fun climbs, little challenges, and then right, let's get back and come and talk to you.
Well, hey, yeah, thanks again for being on the show. You're familiar with the format. I know you've seen some of the episodes, and so we're just going to jump in with some of the basics, right? Emily, where were you born?
I was born in Bristol in the United Kingdom.
So British national citizen,
yeah.
But you live in France now. What brought you to France?
Chance, really. I was asked in 2006 to do a women's skills coaching week for a mountain bike holiday company in Morzine. And then I discovered that you could basically be paid to ride your bike by becoming a guide, because previously it was always my dream to be a sponsored rider, but I never quite got there. So this is a great alternative to be able to ride all the time and be paid to ride and make it into my job. And then I think one thing led to another, where you kind of get to know contacts and what have you. And I ended up working in Les Arcs for a company in 2011, and then thought, I'll do a winter season. And I was just going to do that. But I basically loved it so much I never left.
And as a kid, what kind of activities were you into growing up? Were you into biking or skiing, or what were you into?
Well, I remember trying to pull wheelies on this shopper bike when I was about 8. So I think I've always been interested in being on two wheels and enjoyed the freedom that a bike gave me. Yeah, I definitely totally fell in love with mountain biking when I was about 12, which would have been 1992. So it was when it was, it was the fashionable thing to be doing. BMX had been and kind of gone, and I was a bit too young for that. But yeah, so bikes have been a massive part of my life, like forever. That's it really.
What about school? Let's talk about school. What did you study in school? Did you go to university? Tell us a little bit about your education.
Yeah, so I just did like standard English schooling, which is up to 16, and then I did my A-levels up until I was 18. And at that point, I didn't really know what to do, and I wanted to race. And I, at the time, for some reason, thought that if I went to university, I wouldn't be able to afford to race. So I got a job, had a full-time job, and was trying to race and become a pro, but obviously that didn't quite come together. But and then I ended up going to university when I was 29, and I studied law.
And so, do you have a law degree?
I do, yeah.
Can you practice law in France?
No, I can't. The law in France works a little bit differently to in the UK, and also you need to basically do what's called a training contract to become a solicitor or a lawyer. And I didn't do that because I kind of discovered France life while I was on my summer vacations while I was at uni. And so once I graduated, I just stayed here. So I never took it any further, but...
Well, that's a cool degree to have as a backup, though, right? I mean, that'll get you either into trouble or out of trouble, right?
Should do.
Okay, let's talk about two wheels then. So, early teen, 12 years old, you've got this, basic bike, and you're learning to pop wheelies and you're learning skills. What was it at that time that that hit a spark in you that said, I want to do this more?
I don't know. I think it was just, it must have just been the freedom and like the, the buzz of learning new things. Because at that age, you just try and try and try until you get it. And also at that time, because as I say, it was kind of on the rise and it was kind of fashionable, there was, I don't know, like, so many boys at school who were getting into it as well. So we'd all be like, have you seen the latest Kona catalogue or the latest, Scott catalogue or whatever? And we'd all be comparing notes. I'm going to save up for this. And so we were just so into it. So it was a really kind of like group thing, because I was a bit of a tomboy at school. I didn't really get on with the girls that much. They had a little bit of bullying, nothing major, but the boys just were easy to get on with. And I guess that maybe helped. And also in the summer holidays, you could ride up to the local spot and there'd be like 10, 15 guys up there all riding, and no one cared that I was a girl. I was the only girl for years and years and years and years. I didn't care. They didn't care. It was just, everyone was equal. It was brilliant. And I just loved it. I just loved we all progressed together. And I think that's what was so much fun. It was just fun.
There is definitely a movement of more and more women entering the sport. And I won't say it's equal, but it is massive, right? It is a wave of women. There are so many amazing people like yourself that are welcoming women, embracing women, and teaching women and making them feel accepted and comfortable. When did that start to begin for you? When did you start to see that as a movement?
I remember, this is going to sound awful, I remember going back to the UK maybe around 2012 and going riding at one of the trail centres in South Wales and seeing girls riding, small groups of girls riding on their own without any guys, and being like, but where are the guys? Because even I was so used to seeing girls out riding with guys that when I saw some girls riding by themselves, I was like, wow. And then I was like, I shouldn't have that attitude. It's awesome they're riding without guys. We don't need guys to go riding. So I guess probably I think it must have been around about 2011, 2012-ish. But even prior to that, when I was still in the UK, there's a really, really good race series called the Pierce Cycles Downhill Series. And we used to get a fairly good number of girls at that, like all things considered. If we got 10 girls, we were like, this is amazing. And that would have been probably more towards like the late, or like 2008, 2009 kind of time, I guess. I can't remember, to be honest. But then it's just snowballed from there. Now when you go to Morzine in France, there's so many girls riding. They've just come on holiday, they're not necessarily competitive. It's brilliant. It's so good to see.
Emily, I'm curious about some of the people or athletes or professionals that you might have followed as a kid. So 12 to 16 years old. Were there pros in the sport that you admired, that you wanted to be like?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So there was a legendary, absolutely legendary video that came out that was called Dirt, and it came out probably around about 94, 95. It was made by, I'm pretty certain it was Mountain Biking UK who basically put it together. And it had Jason McCroy in it, Dave Hemming, Jez Avery, just some absolute legends of the UK scene. I think Rob Warner might have been in it as well. And I watched it on repeat and just wanted to be as cool as all those guys. Because I think this is the first time that we would have had a video of British people riding. We had stuff like Chain Smoke and stuff like that, but it was the US, so it wasn't quite as tangible. So to have people from our own scene, who, and obviously I read Mountain Biking UK, it was like, that was like the Bible when I was like 14. And I think it was those guys, just wanted to be as cool as those guys.
Emily, in your bio, we talk about you being the 2021 Downhill Masters World Champ. Before we dive deeper into your business, tell us about that. And you always loved racing, but here you are, 2021, sort of in the middle of COVID, and you pull out this amazing victory.
Yeah. Years ago when I was racing in the elite category, I'd always said, when Masters World Champs comes back to Europe, because at the time it was in Brazil, and when I'm old enough, I'll go and do it. And then I stopped racing downhill in 2012. and forgot all about it really. And then when we were approaching, or when I was approaching turning 40, I thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to get a downhill bike again and see if we can win Masters World Champs, as a little like ushering in being 40. And obviously that didn't happen in 2020 because of COVID, but it came, and I was like, oh well. And a friend said, well, just do it next year. Oh yeah, of course. Okay. So I did it, and I did a bit of training for it. I wanted to be as fit and strong as I could be, so that if I didn't win, I knew I'd put in as much as I could, because if you didn't win and maybe I wish I'd trained. So I thought, right, let's do it properly. And so it was brilliant. Really enjoyed the whole process, and did a few races that year to kind of like warm up and kind of remember how to race, and absolutely fell back in love with racing downhill again, and raced the French nationals this year just gone, and basically got back into the elite category, which was a goal for like the end of the season, and I basically got into it straight away. I was like, oh, okay, which was brilliant. I was like really pleased, and just been working on my racecraft and trying to put into practice things that I know about now that I didn't know about when I was younger, which meant I wasn't that good a racer in terms of putting down a good run. So it's been really cool.
Will we see you racing more in the future?
Yes, I am doing some World Cups this year.
Great.
I feel a little bit silly going to a World Cup aged 40. I'll be 43 by the time we get to the first one. But as I mentioned earlier, when I was younger and I was racing, I don't think I understood how to race effectively. And there's so much more information in the public domain now that I just didn't know to ask about when I was younger. I think I was quite a shy kid and wouldn't necessarily ask for help because I didn't know to ask, and I wasn't sure, about walking up to, say, Tracy Mosley and saying, oh, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? I just was too shy to do that. I kind of lacked confidence. So I want to just go back to the World Cups just to see what happens now that I know a bit more about how to race better. And I absolutely don't expect to qualify. I just want to put myself in that situation and see what it's like these days. And I also think that if I'm to help, the girls in the club who are starting to do World Cups and potentially in the future, like any rising stars, I need to know what that's like now in 2023, because it was different in 2012 when I last did a World Cup. So I think it's a personal project, but it's also a little bit of CPD to understand what it's like nowadays.
Not just anyone can just show up to a World Cup and enter to possibly qualify. Tell us a little bit about like the requirements. Like, what does somebody need, especially as a 42, 43-year-old who's been off the circuit? What do you need to do to show up to get into a World Cup?
It's definitely easier as a girl, but you need to have 40 UCI points, so world ranking points, and you gain those by doing races where you can accrue points. So this past summer, that's basically what I was doing. I wasn't doing it with a view to doing World Cups. I was just doing it because I wanted to race. But the byproduct is that I've scored enough points that I can now enter World Cups until those points expire. So they're valid for a year. So they actually expire at the end of June. And I want to do the later World Cups, so I've got to score some more through this summer. So hopefully that'll go well, so I can do the later World Cups as well. They're in Europe. So you have to score world ranking points, and you need 40. If you're a guy, that is a lot harder because it's so much more competitive, so many more fast juniors and elites in the guys field. So that's it. And then also, I was just going to say about training, it's really important to be fit and strong to be able to hold on, really. So I'd say you need to do that too.
How hard is it to get 40 points? Do you have to top 10 in 2 or 3 races? Tell us about that.
Yeah, basically, I think you get 10 points for 10th. And so obviously the higher up you get, the more points you get. And maybe I was fortunate this year in that a couple of the French World Cup racers who might have come to the Nationals were injured, so they didn't go, which meant it was a bit easier to get some points. And so I'm wondering how this year will pan out because they're not injured anymore, so they'll be back. So it's going to be a little bit harder. But yeah, you need to be I did I think I did 3 races and was hovering around sort of top 5 at those races, and that got me the points. So yeah,
That's
you do
awesome.
need to be sitting in the top 8, 7-ish, I guess.
Emily, let's switch back then to nutrition and hydration and sort of, training support to either do what you do as a guide, right, which requires a lot of fitness, but also to race. If you're going to compete at the World Cup level, you need a certain amount of fitness. How important is that, and what do you do off the bike to maintain that fitness?
Oh, I think it's super important, and I don't think I even realised that when I was younger either. I started doing some training ready for Masters World Champs, like I said, and I really noticed the difference. It just feels like, let's say, for example, your front wheel gets knocked offline. You just barely notice because you're just stronger in your core and on your arms and everything's stronger. And that in turn gives you more confidence to not break as much when you're going really fast. So I think it's really important to be doing some work in the gym to make sure that your back's strong and your arms are strong and your core is strong. Well, all of you is strong, basically. So I'm working with Ben Plenger, the Strength Factory is the name of his business, and following a program with him, and riding as well. And in terms of being fit for guiding, when I first came here and was guiding, I was so unfit because I was very much a downhiller, and the slightest little hill I would whinge about. And nowadays I ride up these little hills and I'm like, I can't believe I used to whinge about that. So that just took care of itself, just time on the bike, guiding all summer long, and it just builds that endurance. And then, as I say, I've been working in the gym to become stronger so that I am more stable on my bike, and I think it's really important, and it makes a big difference.
All right, we're going to change gears to your career. So, you're hooked on riding, you're hooked on 2 wheels, you've got this law degree. What then pushed you to move out of the UK to France to start a skills clinic and coaching business?
I guess it's been a series of opportunities that I've just taken. You just see them and you just think, okay, let's go with it and see where we end up. And so I was very lucky that in 2006 I was asked to do this skills camp, and then discovered that you could be a guide. So I got my guiding qualifications, went back to Morzine and worked another summer there. And then, as I said earlier, I ended up working in Les Arcs for a guiding company. So initially I was working for other people, and then we had some problems where the French didn't recognise our British qualifications, so we all kind of stopped. And I was kind of like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do now, but there was a chance I was going to go back to the UK. And then one of my friends, a guy called Sam Morris, who's been absolutely instrumental in kind of making it possible for British guides to become French qualified, he said, oh, you should really do your equivalence test. Like, I think you should do it, and they want people to come and do it. Because I wasn't sure my French was good enough at the time. So I was like, okay, well, I've got nothing to lose. Let's try. And I was successful. I think it's that often, like, you have a lack of self-confidence sometimes, and actually you can be a lot better at things than you realise. So I'm glad that he pushed me to do it, because it meant I got my French guiding qualification, and at that point I was able to work for myself. I didn't need to work under somebody else who was already qualified, with my British qualifications. So at that point it's like, okay, this opens up a whole new world. So I started doing just working as a freelance, but like doing odd, like, private days guiding rather than week-long holidays.
Yeah.
And then one of the companies here closed down, and I thought, there's a gap here. Maybe I can plug it. There were lots of people enjoying coming here for week-long holidays, so let's see what we can do. So we started doing that in 2018, me and my husband, and I guess you could say the rest is history. We're still doing it. We got through COVID, and this summer's looking like really good. Like, I'm really pleased with how this summer's coming together. I feel like people are feeling a lot more comfortable to travel again now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all our clients this summer, so that's really cool.
Now, you have a legitimate business, right, that caters to people all over the world to guide or learn. When did you set up that business?
So I started it in in 2018, and at that point we called it the Inside Line MTB, which was kind of a nod to the inside knowledge on where to go riding, and kind of the inside line, a bit of a nod to my racing heritage. But I've since changed the name because I started my YouTube channel, and I thought, well, what if one of my viewers would like to actually come riding with me in real life? They're going to type in Emily Horridge into Google, so I thought, let's change it to Emily Horridge MTB, and hopefully it makes it easier for them to find me. That's the idea, so yeah.
That makes sense. You just mentioned your husband, so I got to ask, where'd you meet your husband, and is he French?
He's English, and I met him here. He came on holiday to, I was actually working for Sam Morris, who I mentioned just a minute ago. David came on holiday, and we didn't really talk to each other for the first 3 days of his holiday, and then after that we started talking to each other, realised we got on really well, stayed in touch, and eventually got married. So yeah, nice. It was like a bit of a fairy tale story that I never thought would happen to me, but yeah, it has, and it's brilliant. He rides, and he's my best friend.
That's awesome. And is he also your business partner?
Yeah, he is. I couldn't do it without him.
He doesn't have another career. You guys are 100% focused on the business, right?
No, he does have another career. He's an electrician. So because of where we live, and it's skiing in the winter and bikes in the summer, I work in a ski shop in the winter as a ski tech, and he's an electrician outside of the summer season, and then in the winter he works for somebody else as a airport transfer driver. So we've got quite a varied lifestyle in terms of our jobs, which keeps it all fresh. Actually, it's quite cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So in the winter time, you ski coach?
No, I work in a ski shop and service skis.
Okay, ski shop.
Yeah.
Got it. You live in the French Alps, right? So both seasons are about equal in terms of, length, right? There's a big ski season and then a big bike and summer season, right?
Our summer season is quite a bit shorter actually than the winter season. So the winter season is kind of December to April, and the summer season, in terms of when the lifts open, it's July and August. But in terms of when we can ride, you can ride from June to late October, early November. So yeah, so there's loads of, that's to ride really high, but we've been riding all winter this year because it's been so dry. So so it depends on how you look at the seasons. My main work season tends to be kind of mid-June to late August, and I'd like to extend it, but we're working on that still.
Yeah. So you do a bunch of things with your business, but one of them I find is really interesting, and that's the YouTube series of videos. Tell us about those.
I've always seen myself as this is going to possibly sound a bit ridiculous, but I've always seen myself as a little bit of a mediocre rider, because I've always ridden with world-class athletes, when I've been racing, and I'm kind of midfield in comparison. So I didn't really think I had anything to offer. And then a few friends said, oh, I find you really inspirational to ride with, and so on. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I live somewhere quite rural, and it's difficult to maybe make contact with other women that I could maybe inspire in person, but maybe I could do it on YouTube. But lots of other people are doing that. So that was the inspiration, and I started to plan it before COVID hit actually, but it potentially looks like I did it because COVID came along and I had nothing else to do, because I started it in April 2020, but it was in the pipeline already. But basically the motivation was that because I didn't feel like I could possibly inspire people on a face-to-face level because of where I live, I was like, let's try and do it on a global level on YouTube. And I did some research, and there didn't seem to be that many female-led instructional videos. There are women in instructional videos, but with a male instructor. I found plenty of those, and I thought, oh, there's definitely a gap here. Let's give it a try. So yeah, just got started and really enjoyed it, and it's still ticking along. It's really hard to do as much last year due to various problems and commitments, and now I'm trying to keep it going with still giving people help, but maybe coming on a journey with me and stuff that I'm working on. So but I'm hopefully it's inspiring people. So that's the main aim.
Well, that's cool. I love that you're growing a community on both online, on YouTube, but also in real life. Tell us about in real life. How many people do you think you serve live, either through individual or groups in a season?
Oh, I'm not sure. So it depends on what I'm doing. So for example, this coming season, I won't see that many people because I'm having each person for a whole week. So I'm not going to see many individuals. But then last season, I did loads of coaching. And so maybe I'd have 5 people in the morning and then a different 5 people in the afternoon. So some seasons I get loads of different individuals. And then other seasons I'm having like people for a week long. So it's really, really varied. But yeah, no, it's difficult to put a number on, to be honest. But not loads, but hopefully I'm helping the people that I do see.
What were some of your own personal challenges, either in setting up a business or building the business or just in life?
In the business sense, I think at the time the language barrier was a definite challenge, because the way that you set up a business here obviously is very different to the UK, and so I had to find out what that was and how to go about it and all of those things, whilst not necessarily fully understanding what somebody might say to me if I was to go and ask for advice or yeah, so I was sort of having to ask friends who spoke French better than I did to help me with that, and then feeling a bit like you're taking some of their time. But we got there, and so that was a challenge which we had to overcome, or that I had to overcome. And then ongoing kind of things with the business is just, making sure you got the right insurances in place and that you understood what it is that you've just paid for and things like that. But again, that's something that gets easier as time goes on and your language skills improve. So yeah, no, so I feel like, that side of things is ticking along kind of okay. And then in terms of like my personal life, I've been really fortunate to not have any major challenges, I guess. Had a very good, happy childhood, great supportive parents, and a very supportive husband as well. So, and in between kind of leaving home and meeting David, I was riding bikes and everything was pretty okay, So I've been very fortunate in that regard, I'd say.
Emily, I'm looking at your jersey that you're wearing, and I see the Scott logo. I already know you're a SRAM and RockShox sponsored ambassador. Let's just shift a little bit and talk about how you've attracted some of your partners. What was it about you that either we or others looked at that said, you know what, she's got a cool thing going on. We're gonna give her a little sponsorship deal. And how was it? Hard? Was it easy?
Since I was a racer, back in the day, I always wanted to be sponsored by SRAM. So being sponsored by you guys is an absolute dream come true. Scott was a brand that I just really liked their products and kind of wanted to represent them. So I got in touch with them, and at the time, well, it was the worst timing. It was February 2020, so just before COVID. So at the time they were like, we can't do anything. And I sort of explained to them, I'm planning to start a YouTube channel. This is what it's all about, and told them all about what I do. And then I got back in touch with them in the August of that same year. And basically, because I'd done what I said I was going to do, they were like, well, you've done what you said you're going to do. Yeah, we'd love to support you. So that's how it came about. And so, yeah, so they've been supporting me, since 2020, which is really cool because I still really love their products.
I'm curious, the clients that you have, what percentage of your clients are on traditional bikes versus e-bikes? And are you seeing a trend of e-bikes in your area?
For my clients, it's still 99% normal traditional bikes. There's one or two who sort of say, oh, can I bring my e-bike? And I'm like, yeah, if you want, but you're going to have to ride slowly with us lot. But yeah, no, mainly, and I think that's partly because of the travel restrictions for people flying. So even if they have an e-bike at home, they're potentially going to bring their traditional bike. So still 99% traditional bikes. But in terms of the local area, I have got loads of friends with e-bikes, and I actually have one due to arrive myself in the next few days from Scott. So yeah, we're all going that way in the valley as well.
Are e-bikes legal all over where you are?
Yeah, luckily they are. They are, because they're pedal assist bikes rather than kind of just electric motorbikes. They are limited to 25 kilometres an hour, which is, I think that's, something like 20 miles an hour. I can't actually remember.
Right.
But they are legal, so that's cool.
All right, Emily, we're going to change gears one more time and talk about community. I know from talking with you and learning more about you that you are involved locally with some trail advocacy support groups. And we're always curious at SRAM here, what our athletes and partners like yourselves are doing to either enrich people's lives or make the world a better place. Tell us about the Mountain Bike Foundation that you're involved in.
Yeah, so the Mountain Bike Foundation, or Mountain Bikers Foundation, is a French mountain bike charity, and its aim is to advocate for trails and to sort of ensure a good level of harmony between different trail users and between municipalities and mountain bikers. For example, if a trail gets banned and there's not really any grounds for that banning, for riders to use it, then they'll get involved and say, well, look, can you explain this to us, and sort of advocate for that ban to be lifted. And they're very successful in that. And then they have sort of small branches in various places around the country. And so me and a group of probably 5 or 6 others, we all got together and formed one of these branches of the Mountain Bikers Foundation so that we can do that advocacy work and dig days and what have you here. So yeah, we get together and sort of discuss it. Are there any problems with trails? Are there residents who aren't happy about stuff? Are there any new bans that we maybe need to go and talk to the municipality about, and just sort of find out what the story is and see if we can work together to get rid of that ban, but maybe make it so that everyone's happy with who's using the trails, and also deciding, is there a trail that we know we need to go and do some work on, organising that and everything involved in that as well. So I've been involved in that again, we started that at the start of 2020. So we're like, let's get together and let's do stuff. And then COVID hit. I was like, so we had to wait. But it's great. It's been, so we're now it's about 3 years. So just trying to keep things harmonious throughout the valley, which is great.
Emily, how did you first become aware of this organization?
I knew about it a while ago. I think, just kind of word of mouth. But by chance, one of my friends ended up working there. So she started working there just maybe around 2019, I guess. And so we were aware of it. And so when the group of us that got together started to talk about what to do about the trails and how we could look after our local trails, we had a couple of options. We could either become a branch of the Mountain Bikers Foundation, or we could set up an association separately. It soon became clear that doing it with the MBF would be easier and probably more efficient, because it meant we could just concentrate on doing what we actually wanted to do, which was to look after the trails. So it's partly kind of word of mouth prior to my friend working there, but then once she started working there and we sort of really understood how it worked, it was just like, this is the obvious route to go down to create a sort of mini branch of the MBF here.
What are some of the sort of key tension points that exist amongst either landowners or municipalities? What are the hot points? Is it, I don't know, is it parking? Is it trash? Is it shared usage? What are you seeing some of the key sort of hot topics in trails and trail access?
In this valley, it's definitely shared usage, and there are trails, because the trails here historically would have been put in place hundreds of years ago to link villages, and so often they go through villages and they're down tight little corridors, potentially passing literally right by somebody's front door. And so that can be an issue where people are bombing down the trails, and let's imagine that old Granny Smith pops out of the door and somebody takes her out. That's not good. So understandably, in certain villages and hamlets, the residents are not at all happy with people bombing down the trails. So we just need to kind of work on that a little bit, potentially diverting a trail around a village, or just say to people, look, please get off your bike to walk through this village, or just working with the residents to find a solution that everyone's happy with, so that and everybody, and particularly us as mountain bikers, are showing respect to the people that live in these villages by slowing down or walking through or not even going through those villages. So that's the real rubbing point for us in this valley, is is passing through little villages, and even on some of the trails which are heavily used by walkers. You know, the walkers tend to favour certain trails, and so making sure that we do slow down, say hi, and are courteous, and so on and so forth. So a little bit of education as well, so to get everybody being nice and saying hi.
Well, so glad you're working with them, and thank you for that. Emily, we just have one last section in our podcast, and it's the speed round. We throw a bunch of things, this or that, at you just to see, you know, what your preferences lie. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Pancakes or waffles?
Oh, pancakes.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee. I do not like tea, which is unusual for an English person.
That's unusual for an English person, for sure. Tacos or burritos?
I think burritos.
Yeah, also a bit foreign, right? I mean, not super mainstream in France or the UK,
No,
but
not at all.
But as a mountain biker, you gotta love them, right?
Yeah, totally.
Spicy or mild?
Oh, spicy for sure.
Cold weather or hot weather?
That's a difficult one because I like being warm, but if I get too hot, I can't. Like, I almost go into shutdown. Let's imagine I'm riding up a steep hill and it's hot. I just can't do it. But if it's cold, I get grumpy and I don't like it. So I don't know.
Okay,
I can't answer that question.
Fair enough. How about this? If you had to choose rain or snow?
Oh, snow, 100%.
The mountains or the beach?
Mountains, for sure.
Big cities or quiet suburbs?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. For living, quiet suburbs, but for like a cool kind of touristy weekend, big cities.
Cars or trucks?
Oh, cars.
Pavement or dirt?
Dirt.
Gloves or gloveless?
Gloves.
Clipped in or flat pedals?
Oh, a bit of both. For racing, clips, and for everything else, flats. Although at the moment I'm riding clips in preparation for racing.
Good training. How about this? Low pressure or high pressure in your tires?
Low.
Fix it yourself or take it to a mechanic?
Oh, totally fix it myself. I love a bit of bike tinker and a fix up. Yeah.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs. Got a dog lying at my feet right now.
And since you live in France but were born in the UK, I'll ask you, France or the UK?
Oh, France for sure. The weather's better and so is the cheese.
Awesome. Emily Horridge, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, hearing your story. Thank you so much for sharing everything, and keep on teaching, keep on with those skills clinics on YouTube, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Okay, thanks very much for having me. It's been really great to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Emily. Cheers.
Bye.